Welcome to Breaking Sales, a podcast dedicated to helping you have tough, meaningful, and rewarding conversations with your prospects and clients. In meaningful, what we mean is these are the conversations you truly feel like you are the prospect or client's conversational peer. There's no anxiousness or uncertainty holding you back. You feel a sense of calm and confidence in asking the tough questions. You're not thrown off by the bad news, and you expect the prospect to think about and invest into the conversation as much as you do. On Breaking Sales, we use the filter of psychology and innate human behavior to deconstruct the many misleading sales approaches that actually work against your efforts to build trust and close the business. Let's get started. Here's a question for you. Which tendency wins out? You know those moments when the prospect says that they're struggling with something, not satisfied with their current partner, or uses some kind of descriptive word to explain what they're experiencing or what they want? What do? Do you jump to solve because the insecurities that you're feeling in the moment can cause you to jump to sharing competency with the hope of trying to impress that prospect? Or are you able to slow down and resist the innately social yet ineffective response of jumping to solve? Instead, you turn into what that prospect shared with an intent to understand exactly what they mean versus assuming so that it fits the narrative that you may have wanted to hear. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You're losing deals because you think you know what people mean when they say something like more innovative or strategic. But you have no idea what those words mean to them. Zero clue. Today, Pam and I are exploring one of the most underutilized conversation skills that separates high performers from everyone else. It's deceptively simple, but most people don't do it because their need to validate themselves gets in the way. If you've ever walked away from a conversation wondering why your perfect solution didn't land, this episode will help you make the important conversation adjustments to improve the quality in how your prospect listens to you and debates your expertise. Let's get started. Morning, Pam.
Good morning, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I thought that we would talk about a particular tactic today that really important, can make a huge difference in any conversation that we have. All right. So this particular tactic really can open up the doors to some real honesty, real deeper learning and understanding, whether you're talking to a prospect, a client, a teammate, or maybe even a family member if you want to go that far.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Now, you might drive the family member a little crazy with it, but you never know. It might be effective. So last week, as you know, I was in Miami and we did a lot of conversational dissection under the whole theme of conversation resilience that you and I love, right?
Yep.
We love the idea of conversation resilience. And that resilience piece is our ability, right, to continue to stay in an effective learning mode and not get thrown off by whatever the other human being is saying. True statement?
True statement.
Yeah. So during the role plays and so forth, what I noticed, Pam, and again, it's a simple skill set of really listening to what the adjectives are that the other human being is saying and asking about them. And shockingly, it's not an often used skill set. And I think it's not an often used skill set because I think we so quickly get in our heads what we want to say or how we want to, articulate our opinion of something. We forget, let's make sure we double down on understanding what did this other person mean when they said whatever they said. Like an example would be an adjective like innovative. It sounds so simple, right? Prospects talking to you and they're like, you know what? We're looking for a partner who's more innovative. We need to know and understand what are the platforms that are out there? What's available to us? What are the new technologies? And people hear that and they never seem to backtrack toward, what do you mean by innovative? Everybody jumps to, well, here's our platform, or here's our technology, or whatever. But it's all about slowing down and saying, okay, if you don't mind, can you share a little bit more? What do you mean by innovative? That simple pause is so powerful.
And to your point, Dan, many of them haven't really thought it all the way through yet. And it's even more important to allow them to do that critical thinking to say, what do I mean by that? How do I know when an innovation is landing at my desk? Can I give an example of why I feel that is so important in the business and what's at stake if I don't have innovation? Why do I believe my current partner can't provide innovation? Would they be able to give an answer as to why they're not providing innovation? Like, gosh, you could go down so many rabbit holes with your questions around that one adjective.
The thing that you said right there that was the most important, I want our listeners to just slow down, because I know some of our listeners are going, yeah. Ask more questions, blah, blah. No, that's not it. What it really is you're listening to how the other human being is describing something, and you're inquiring about it, and you're causing a chain reaction of critical thinking, because there's a really good chance, and more than likely, that even though that prospect used the term innovative, they have yet to truly think through, what do they mean by it?
We all have different definitions of these things. We all see it very
Absolutely.
differently, and all these different adjectives impact us differently. You know, Dan, I lease cars because I never drive because I'm on the road. So I love leasing a car every 3 years. And I was in a particular dealership and he's like, okay, so tell me what's important this go around for you. And first thing out of my mouth, technology. I'm into technology. I want like the latest and greatest in technology. And he did such a fantastic job of, all right, tell me more. What do you mean by that? And then he said, well, here's something interesting. The car you drive now has some of the best technology. Tell me how you use it. And I'm like, huh. He said, for example, the GPS system on your car today is like bar none one of the best. How do you use the GPS today? Because it's probably the best piece of technology in that car. I'm like, I don't know that I do. He said, let me guess. Do you hook up your phone and then you let your phone guide you from point A to point B? You don't necessarily use the GPS system in the car? I said, yeah, that's what I do. He said, so I'm starting to wonder if that's really what you mean by technology. He said, because as you're kind of playing this out for me, he said, I think how I would define technology as a salesperson at a car dealership may be a little bit different than you're describing technology. You want the ability to hook up your phone and it's seamless and it's easy. Yep. It's like, you don't necessarily need the latest and greatest because you're not using it. And it was amazing, Dan, I'm like, yeah, that is my definition. And to your point, if he had not gone deeper, he would have said, great, let me show you all the bells and whistles on this car. You want to talk technology? Here we go. And none of it would have been appropriate for me based on how I was defining technology. And he had the patience to help me get there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Again, so for our listeners, I'm just going to call all of you out right now. You don't do it. I mean, that's a bold statement by me, because I know everybody's probably listening, whether they're in their car right now, right, on their ear pods or on a plane, right, or in the airport, right? Everybody's listening, but you don't do it. I can't tell you how many film studies we've listened to with very successful individuals, and listen to their prospect conversations, and so very few do it. But here's the powerful thing. You're actually helping someone start to define what's important to them. And you're starting to really get into why it's important to them. When you just blow over adjectives like innovative,
Strategic,
or proactive,
yeah,
or strategic, right, or more responsive, okay, you're missing so much. You got to know, slow down. And here's the problem: you won't slow down if you've already thought in your head you're the right solution and that you have the answers to the test. You're just going to jump because you're going to want to validate yourself. And every time you go to validate yourself in that moment because you feel like you got the answers to the test, you're missing out on helping that prospect critically think. Now, here's the thing about critical thinking. I'm going to add this as a tangent. When we as human beings critically think, as you know, Pam, it's time and effort. And the more time and effort we put towards something, innately, we become more attached. So as that prospect's talking and they use some adjectives, you got to double down on those because that will cause them to do the critical thinking. And when they do the critical thinking, they are investing time and effort. When they invest time and effort, they are becoming more attached to the conversation with you. So it's not just about learning that you're going to improve. You're actually potentially going to improve the trust and the connection that you have with the prospects. As simple as that may sound, but we're talking psychology here. That's how it works.
That's funny, Dan. The ones that are really good at this, they get feedback. I couldn't wait to talk to you again. It's like they almost crave that level of conversation when they start comparing the conversation you're having with them to the others that they're talking to. And when you get deeper in that conversation, people feel it. And then they start comparing. Well, Dan didn't ask me any of these questions. He didn't challenge at all.
So here was a good one, Pam. So this came up in one of the film studies. The prospect literally said, we're doing an RFP because we want to make sure we're able to hold our current provider's feet to the fire.
Yep.
I'm going to give this particular sales professional a ton of credit because in that moment, they did double down. They said, okay, we may not be someone that you'd want to have us participate in the RFP. So they made that statement right away. Can you explain, though, when you think about holding a partner's or provider's feet to the fire, what does that look and sound like? What's that process like? And you know the answer they got?
Crickets.
Here's what the prospect said after a long pause. Well, you know, just make sure the price is in line with the rest of the market. Do you know what this sales professional did?
What?
Passed.
Well done.
Do you know what the prospect did? Stuck with the incumbent.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
Yeah. So again, as a sales professional, all of you compete. And that's what drives a lot of you to be very successful. Your playing field of competition is your conversations now. Every single thing, trust or no trust, comes out of your conversations. Learning, minimal or maximum, comes out of your conversations. Overcoming biases, not overcoming biases, comes out of the conversation. The prospect's willingness to embrace or engage in the possibility of change comes out of your conversations. I can't emphasize it anymore. Your conversations are your competitive playing field. Part of your competitive playing field is you playing at a better, deeper level than your competition. What other better way to do it, and add to it at least, is to start paying attention to the adjectives that your prospect uses. Because I guarantee you right now, for our listeners, if Pam and I were to ask any of you, can you share with us the struggles that you're having in sales? You will go to some struggle examples, but that doesn't mean Pam and I have the same definition of struggle as you do. It could be completely different. And what you think is a struggle may not be a struggle to us, or the opposite. So it's really learning how to listen to what the other human being is saying.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. It's about getting their definition, allowing them to tell you why they feel these things are needed, why they feel they're not getting them today, how they've approached that conversation to see if they can get those things. And Dan, the other thing too, I think that's becoming more and more prominent is I also have other people that are going to be making this decision with me. And do they all agree with my perspective that we lack innovation right now? That it's worth making a change based on my definition of innovation? So that's another thing, is making sure that it's not just getting the lens of the person you're talking to, but the lens of the organization. Do they perceive innovation is a problem? Would they give the same definition based on how in tune they are with the service? And that's become a big one too.
You know, you remind me of a conversation I had with a prospect recently where it was on Zoom and there was 3 of them. And one of them used the word consistent. And I remember asking them, if you can you share what you mean by consistent? What does consistency in this skill, or was it a behavior, look like? And they talked me through what they thought consistency would look like. But then I remember I went to the 2 other individuals and I said, how do you guys feel about that definition of consistency? Is that something that you guys are looking for as well? And one of them had a different definition of consistency.
Exactly.
And then what happened was, which was great, it was a great dialogue between the 2 of them. Well, I just got to sit back and listen.
That awesome?
Because, right, imagine trying to solve for consistency when 2 out of the 3 decision makers have a different definition of it.
And that happens too all the time. We have a client, they spent 2 months with the prospect outside of the owner she was going to be presented to last. And they spent 2 months, and she said, show me creativity and we'll make a change. Show me creativity. Show me something more creative. We're a go. So the sales professional and her team spent 2 months, 30 minutes in to the presentation with her. She said, I don't believe any of this is creative. None of it is creative, in my opinion. And the sales professional will tell you, not understanding her lens on creativity wasted 2 months. It was shot down in 30 minutes. 2 months worth of work was shot down in 30 minutes because we made this huge assumption that the owner's perception on creativity was the same as her team. And Dan, I think people convince themselves, well, it's the team we're going to be working with. It's the team's opinion that matters most. And I also think we have to stop making those types of assumptions. Whoever is affected by the potential change, we have to understand their perspective on all of it just as much as the people that we're talking to. If anybody's going to be affected or have an opinion or come out of the woodwork about the change, we have to ask these vital questions. 30 minutes, she shot it down. None of this is creative. None of it.
Hey, Pam, my last question on this, that's such a great example, is what does the mindset need to be? Right? Because it's the mindset that we have in that moment that's either going to drive us to double down on what we just heard and look for and try to get examples or a definition, or it's the mindset that's going to cause us to leap forward, potentially out of a need to validate or insecurity, and try to share some competency at that point and solve for an adjective that we don't even know the true definition of it.
Yep.
What do you think the mindset needs to be?
So I think at the heart of it, the mindset has to be, I am here to help you understand if this is a change that's needed, first and foremost, and if it's a change you can actually make. So back to that impact, do the pros of doing this actually outweigh the cons? And then what are the hurdles that this organization is going to have to jump through in order to see this change through fruition? And I think people scramble those up. They don't take them as very separate stages in decision making. And that's where we kind of get lost. So this mindset of, I'm here to be helpful. I have to demonstrate the neutrality through my detachment, but I have to understand that there are stages regarding this decision. And that's my job. They're not going to know the stages. My job is to properly lay out the foundation of, first and foremost, we got to help you figure out if this change is even needed, which is why I'm going to go deep in understanding your definition of these things, why you don't believe that you have them today, and what you feel you gain by having them in place. But then I also have to help you understand what hurdles will you have to jump over to see this change through. And part of that is, who doesn't agree with your definition? Who doesn't agree this is a priority and holding you back?
Yeah, definitely. I think to wrap this one up, you have to look at it this way as a sales professional. Your role is to help that prospect determine how and if they need help. It may not include you. And if they need help, what will it entail and what will the barriers be to achieve that help or to make that improvement? So it's all about intent. The intent has to be curiosity to help that prospect truly define, right, is something worth their time improving or not?
Well said.
All right. For our listeners, until next time, enjoy. Remember this, your conversations are your competitive playing field. The quality of your listening and the power of your questions do determine your results. Most people will continue to make assumptions about what prospects mean by the words they use. They'll keep jumping to solutions for problems they never properly defined, and they'll keep losing to competitors who took the time to truly understand. Your challenge is simple. In your next conversation, when someone uses a descriptive word, resist the urge to demonstrate competency. Instead, slow down and remind yourself that you first need to understand the perspective and get curious about their definition, and ask them what they mean by it. The prospects who are worth your time will appreciate the depth. The ones who don't probably weren't going to buy from you anyway. Stop making assumptions and solving for adjectives you don't understand. Start helping people define what's actually worth solving. Thanks for tuning in.